I've done it. I've completed the Strongman Grand Slam. With my strongest man on earth victory this weekend, I'm the first strongman in history to have 4 major titles that are currently running: Strongest Man on Earth, Rogue Invitational, Arnold Classic, and World's Strongest Man. The number one question I'm getting at the moment is what now? And I wanted to take a second to address that. Last year, when I won the Arnolds and then I won World's Strongest Man, I needed something to keep me going and something to keep me motivated. And that's when I thought up the Grand Slam. And I dubbed that because there was 4 major competitions. It's the same in golf, same in tennis. And I figured Strongman now has that, where all of the guys turn up in shape, aiming to win. I fell short. I came second to Brian Shaw at the Strongest Man on Earth last year, and then I managed to win the Rogue Invitational, meaning that Strongest Man on Earth was the only one left. Along the way, I also added one other big challenge to my bucket list, my Strongman bucket list, to set a meaningful world record. And to me, I think Atlas Stone, I think log, axle, and deadlift are the 4 records where they're fairly consistent, and anyone can go into a gym and pretty much try what the world record is. And I accomplished that about a month ago at Royal Albert Hall, setting the world record in the axle clean and press at 218 kilos. Meaning that I have nothing left on my strongman bucket list. And it makes me think, what is there to do now? I've built an incredible social media following that I'm really proud of, and I'll go into detail on that in a second. I've brought a clothing brand, Lift Heavy, Be Kind, that I love the community, and I love how I'm making a small impact to change the lifting world for more positive meaning. And I'm helping tons and tons of people with coaching online and being able to spread my education and my knowledge to other people to help them get the most from themselves as well. I get so many stories from people at meet and greets about them trying my programs and increasing their lifts, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the stuff that I think is really cool. Now, I want to first go back to when I started Strongman, which is around 2019. Now, it's 2024 now, 5 years. I cannot believe what my life has become. In 2019, I set out to start Strongman to become the strongest version of myself, to relate to people who I trained with injuries and chronic conditions so that I know what they were going through, trying to make themselves the strongest version of themselves as well. That's the same reason I ran marathons, to feel what was it like to get as aerobically fit as possible. The same reason I did bodybuilding is what was it like to lose as much body fat as possible, simply to relate to these people. Now, the fact that I'm competitive just sort of meant that every time I tried something, I also competed in it. And in strength sports, it started in powerlifting. Powerlifting quickly turned into strongman because I didn't love powerlifting. It wasn't my calling. It was sort of mundane after a little while. So I did my first strongman show and I qualified for the Amateur Arnold. At this time, I was just learning what the Amateur Arnold was. In full disclosure, I was just sort of wrapping my head around what the Arnold Classic was in the first place. And if I do well at the Amateur Arnold, that means I go to the Amateur Arnold Worlds. And okay, so I'm starting to sort of figure out a whole system here. So I qualified for the Amateur Arnold. Then I won New South Wales State Championship down in Australia. I won ACT Strongest Man, which is the adjacent state. I did a competition called Coal City Strongest, which is also in New South Wales, but a local show. And then COVID happened, and I didn't really know what I was going to do. But I love to train, I love to compete. And when I won New South Wales Strongest Man, that was the moments that I realized I could maybe go further in this sport. I could maybe take this a bit more seriously. And I had nothing else to do, so I signed up for Static Monsters. And I didn't know what the world record was at that time. I was chasing the 18-inch axle world record, really just as something to keep me mentally sane and keep me mentally healthy during some pretty difficult times, as I'm sure we've all had during COVID. So I was prepping for that, and at the same time, I was trying to get my name out there. And I was trying to get my name out there in a way that if something came of it, then great, but I really wasn't expecting much to come. I ended up doing Static Monsters, and I set the world record 1 kilo above what Jerry Pritchett had done. It was accidentally 1 kilo. It should have been 14, but that's a story for another day. After that, I did a deadlift at a charity event of 475 kilos. which at the time, the max, most I had deadlifted was 430. I had no business trying 475, but I did 1,000 and it felt okay. So I figured I'll give it a crack. I lifted that. I was then planning to move back home, give up Strongman, and go to some other facet of fitness and health as I opened up my business here. I ended up getting a reserve spot invite to World's Strongest Man. That reserve spot turned into an actual spot thanks to Rano Heinle. I then came 8th at World's Strongest Man, and I thought, you know what, I'm decent at this, but I really didn't think that I could go all that much further. I didn't realize how high my ceiling was. I set out a goal, and this is when Lawrence Chalet and we started working together, him as my coach, of course. And I set a goal to come on average 3rd at my next 2 Giants live shows, because that's all I had on the docket. And I ended up coming 2nd at both of them. I also got invited to Shaw Classic, which became Strongest Man on Earth, and I came 3rd there. As competitions went on, I continued to hit the podium and continued to do well, but it took a long time for me to convince myself that I truly was one of the strongest in the world. When 2023 came around, I had a couple of professional wins under my belt. I had a good handful of podiums at that stage, and I got my first big win with the Arnold Classic. And I was asked what it meant to me, and I said not much. And I want to dive back into that when I'm done this story. But I won the Arnold Classic, and then a couple of weeks later, literally 5 or 6 weeks later, I ended up winning the 2023 World's Strongest Man. That changed my life. Things went ballistic from there. Continued competing lots, hitting podiums, won the Rogue Invitational, and then this year I won the Arnold again, runner-up at World's Strongest Man, and I won the Strongest Man on Earth. It's made me evaluate a lot now, and I've sort of been thinking about this for a long time. When I say that the Arnold didn't mean much, I think there's so much behind that, because in the end, none of these mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of life. And I think, well, what does mean a lot in the grand scheme of life? And to me, my family means a lot to me. My 6-month-old daughter means a lot to me. Sharing experiences, meeting people, and impacting others means a lot to me, because I'm not a religious person. I'm not a spiritual person. I just believe that after we die, it's the same thing as before we were born. And then it just means what's left of your life when you're gone. And it's the number of people you impact and the memories that you leave behind, and who people remember you to be. And how does Strongman fit into that picture? And at first it didn't. It was just an athletic pursuit that I thought would be good to use as a forum for me to be able to impact people with my exercising them with injuries and chronic conditions and helping to change life that way. But what has Strongman become? And to me, Strongman's become something so much more. And not necessarily the competitions themselves, but going to these competitions and the connections of the people that I've met, and the people that mean a lot to me that I've met over the past few years. And it's hard to believe it's only been a few years. That means the world to me. And when I go to competitions, as much as I find it really difficult to leave my family behind sometimes, and sometimes they come, regardless, when I compete, my family is together. When most people's family, they get together at Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving if you're lucky. Well, my family gets together at World's Strongest Man, at the Arnold, at the Strongest Man on Earth, at the Rogue Invitational, at a few Giants live shows each year, whether they're watching me on live stream or they're coming to the competitions themselves, they're all sharing space. And now we have this common interest, and I don't love to be the center of it, but I happen to be. And we all have this common interest that brings us together on a very regular basis. To me, that is incredibly, incredibly invaluable. We go one step wider in terms of circle, and in comes fans who I've made connections with. And I have fans who I consider to be good friends of mine now. And what would my life be without having more of those people around? And I'm not sure. It would certainly be less full than it is right now. We go one step further of people who are wearing Lift Heavy Be Kind merch. And they're out in gyms and they're making an impact on someone else. And they're helping to promote a positive community in the gym. And maybe that means that some people get healthier because of a message that I'm trying to put out, facilitated through other people. We go one step wider, and I think of you guys, people who watch my YouTube videos, which is admittedly because I won World's Strongest Man, and that's how I hit the algorithm, and that's why I'm on your algorithm. And whether it's entertainment and a little bit of a break from life, if it's education on how to do movements, if it's a little bit of insight into lifting and what's it like at the top level, what's it like to be a pseudo celebrity, what's it like to do X, Y, and Z. I try to share as much as possible with you guys. And there's large parts of my story that I haven't yet shared, and I look forward to sharing a lot more. Through all those levels, I realized that setting out a goal to have the Grand Slam of Strongman that was a materialistic goal. That was something to keep me motivated, to accumulate a few trophies, and to keep me wanting to win. But the thing is, I always want to win, and training is not, it's not the hardest part of my life, and it's not close. I love to train. I love to compete in Strongman. I love the sport. I love what it's brought to me, and I love the community that surrounds it. So I need to set new goals. I need to think a little bit differently now, I think. I am going to continue to win. I am going to continue to train hard. I'm going to continue to turn up to every single competition, avoiding nobody, and competing against everyone who's willing for the rest of my career. But I'm going to try to take a step back and have a little bit more reverence for what's happening and what's bubbling up underneath all of that in terms of creating something lasting. I've got an incredible opportunity to be able to help more people than I ever could have imagined. Whether that's helping with lifting, whether that's helping just pick them up after a bad day, whether that's helping to raise funds, wherein with LHBK, we've given away over $20,000 to different gyms and charities and causes to try to help people out. All of those things need to be considered a lot more. And I think I need to set some more less tangible goals around that. And it brings me to, when will I stop competing? Well, my drive to compete, it doesn't change. And when I won World's Strongest Man in 2023, I didn't understand why. I never thought that I could win World's Strongest Man. I never thought that I could be a professional strongman. I never thought that I could make an income off of lifting weights. I thought the proposition of that was fairly silly. Growing my personal impact, growing the sport, growing the number of people who could have the experience and the opportunity that I have had, just like I'm doing this off the back of people who have done it for much less in every sense of the word, not just monetary, but impact and experience as well. From Brian Shaw's early days to Lawrence Chalet, Zadrunas, all of the greats. I mean, Terry Hollins, Nick Best. I can go on and on about all of the people who I need to thank for the position that I'm in. And the best way I can give thanks is to try to move it forward just like they did. So I'll be done competing when I stop loving to compete. And my goals will be around becoming the greatest strongman of all time. Now, the greatest strongman of all time to me will not be related to accolades. It will not be related to podiums. It will not be related to victories. It'll be related to the number of people I can impact, the number of times I can get my family together, the number of connections that I can make, the number of indirect effects on people's lives, the most impact in the fitness and the broader strongman community, and the most indirect impact I can make. And these are goals that will last for the rest of my life. As I always say, lift heavy, be kind, get used to me, because I'm not going anywhere.